welcome back to another episode of the Done Deal Show. Dean returns for the summer ahead. I had a lot of messages about you, Dean. When's Dean back? So good to have you here, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Good to be back, obviously. It's been a while since one of these shows, and the world of football's probably been turned on its head since then. The transfer world, obviously, Mbappe trolled everybody by just staying at PSG. That kind of wrecked things for Real Madrid. Then they go and win the Champions League and say we don't need you anyway. Today feels to me like the first day of the transfer window. Really, I mean, you've got a lot going on. You know, Chelsea's takeover. Everything about to switch hands there. United, on the verge of changing managers. Sadio Mane ready to leave Liverpool. This is where it really kicks off today. Forget June 1. We'll just do it all today because May 30 is the day I think that the transfer window really opens and we can start to kick on.
Well, as you say, the football ends. The Champions League final just, I think, rounded the season off nicely. Barring for Liverpool fans, it rounds it off. You have kind of a day of Sunday of reflection, playoff final, of course. And now this morning, that's all anybody cares about. Transfers, who's coming to my club, who's leaving, and all of that. So, of course, we're going to take a pit stop tour around the top six during this show to look at some of the big deals being discussed at those said football clubs. And I think a really nice place to start, actually, is with Spurs and Arsenal, because they're both looking at a number of players. Spurs have already pretty much got Ivan Perisic through the door. There's Bastoni, but they're also sort of fighting out over a couple of players, Yuri Tielemans being a name that keeps coming up. A lot of activity in North London.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Gabby Jesus too, one that Spurs and Arsenal ready to fight over. We'll have to wait and see. Jesus might yet stay at Man City for the third or fourth year in a row. I mean, definitely every summer is considering leaving Man City, never actually does it. This is definitely the most hype we've ever around him leaving. Two interesting offers there for him. Look, Tottenham and Arsenal want Jesus for different reasons and see different roles for him. At Arsenal, obviously, he's going to be seen as a number 9. So if he wants to go and be a number 9, then Arsenal's the place he's going to get that chance. It's been well reported that Edu is the technical director and has good links with this Jesus transfer and could make it happen pretty smoothly. But over the way at Tottenham, there's obviously Champions League football. There's a project that's probably kicked on to a level higher than Arsenal's right now. And you see them, like you say, recruiting Perisic quickly. They are linked with Bastoni. They're linked with Kostic. And probably it is a more appealing factor. The only thing you'd have to consider from Jesus' point of view is like, well, they've got Harry Kane, so you're not getting that shirt. Then Son plays that role where he goes beyond him. So who's going to do that? And then Kulusevski plays that other role. And now they're going to have Perisic in there. Who knows exactly where he's going to fit in? Is it just off the forward? Is he going to play wide or as a wing back? So there's a lot to consider there. But yeah, I think it's really interesting right now that Arsenal and Tottenham like battling for power, and both are going to have really big transfer windows. I reckon we'll see at least 5 transfers made by both of these clubs over the summer, and both really looking to show their managers that they're going to get the backing they want.
Yeah, I think what you said there about 5 from both. There is going to be big spending. There is going to be big amounts of money spent, whether it's on individuals or cumulatively. And the Gabriel Jesus one, as you say, I think it's such an intriguing one because the projects are so different. The managers are so different. The squads are so different. But I still think I think Arsenal still have that edge. As a fan listening to it, there is that you will be the starting number 9, the main man, the main individual. However, we don't know where Perisic is going to play. Maybe there's a train of thought to say, listen, I want to play a striker off of Harry Kane. Yeah, Harry Kane dropping into that 10 role this year was sensational, but it's all to fight for him. And in terms of Yuri Tielemans, I mean, Spurs have been linked before. Arsenal fans, I think every day I see a series of threads about the links to him. Is that something that, in your opinion, can transpire without Champions League football?
I think it can. I mean, ultimately, the reason Tielemans would like a move right now is because he wants Champions League football. So that does play into Tottenham's hands a bit. but also he just wants to see how far he can push on in his career, and he feels that this is probably a good time for him to move on from Leicester. I think the most interesting point that I've heard made over this is from somebody that's pretty closely connected to Leicester, who said, look, Brendan Rodgers would love Tielemans to stay, but ultimately he thinks he could move on without him. He thinks he could replace him. And he thinks if they were to get a decent fee for him, it might not be the worst time to move him on. That's an interesting one for me, because it's not often that, a club like Leicester and a manager like Brendan Rodgers would be open to selling such a key player. But I think, Tottenham, I was told a month or so back, were going in for Tielemans and Eriksen if they were to make the top four. So they've now made that. So I expect them to push on with their interest there. We'll have to see. But tough one for Arsenal, tough selling point. But we've seen Mikel Arteta use his personal touch before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that rivals don't like hearing this about Arsenal, but they are still Arsenal. They're big Arsenal. They're a big football club. They're a big name. And for a lot of players, it's also that, I mean it with respect to Tottenham, if you're playing for Arsenal and you're not in the Champions League, if it's about growing a legacy and growing your name and growing your reach as a footballer, Arsenal still is, for some people, going to be a better option because their fan base is bigger. I'm going to guess here, viewing figures globally for an Arsenal Europa League game are going to be bigger than a Spurs Champions League game, unless it's a big one, quarterfinal, semi-final. So for some players, like the number of followers they have on socials and how their brand, as it were, for some people, it's a big thing as well. So I think Arsenal have definitely got that pull in those areas. Staying with Tottenham, one of the other deals I'm really intrigued about, there's lots of news coming up this morning about Bastoni of Inter Milan. Talks of a £50-odd million bid, some reservations from Bastoni leaving Inter for Tottenham, or leaving in general. What's your understanding of their pursuit of that very talented young defender?
Yeah, it's definitely one that they're looking to move ahead with. I mean, it's obviously quite a significant amount of money, so it won't be an easy one to get done. But I think for any Italian player looking to come into the Premier League right now with Tottenham, you would be looking at the impact that Romero and Kulusevski were able to make, on that team in the Premier League so quickly under Conte. It's a big selling point they're going to have to use. Tottenham obviously been after various defenders since Conte came into the club. He's made it absolutely clear that he needs more solidity there at the back and a certain style of defending too. Bastoni is the guy that we believe is front of the queue right now for them to get. So I do believe they'll look to get it done. I think the first couple of weeks of this window is key for Tottenham, because they want to show Conte that he's got their back in, that he's going into the Premier League next season with a better squad than he ended this one with when he finished fourth. And who knows how well this can go under Conte. There's, those fears of him leaving, they're gone for now. Let's see what they can do from in this window. If things go really well in this transfer window and then Tottenham start next season well, he might even be tempted to stay longer. I do believe that he's reasonably excited now. If Conte ever does get excited about a project, then beyond 2 years, then this might be it. I know he likes to stay short term, but if he's just building something this season and it's going well, he might be tempted to just stay for another year and say, right, let's finish this job off. I've kept Harry Kane. I've got this good squad around him. Let's go and actually win stuff now and see what we can do.
On Harry Kane, there was some talk by the Anfield Wrap that they have held talks with Kane. I know you're very close to Tottenham. You know a lot of people involved in that club. Is there any fears for Tottenham at all about losing him this summer, or do they feel pretty confident he's going to stay?
I mean, they've been very confident he's going to stay. People I speak to are almost convinced that Harry Kane is not only staying now, but might be able to be talked into a new contract. Got a couple of years left. Talks haven't progressed anywhere in terms of him staying longer than that, but he's been won over by Conte. There's no doubt about that. He's excited about how things have turned around. And I think he quite likes his role too. I think he feels like he's grown as a footballer. Yeah, you might look at his output at certain times and think it's not quite the Kane that we saw before, but there comes a stage in your career where you do start to change and you want to do different things. And Harry Kane, as we've seen various times, drops deeper. Son goes to become that furthest man forward, and Tottenham have had a lot of success from it. So I'd be very surprised if Kane ended up leaving, particularly if Liverpool were to buy him. I mean, A lot of money. It's going to cost a lot of money. The fee that Man City were told to pay last year, like £150 million, in Tottenham's eyes, that hasn't dropped. Like, they still see him as that man. They still see him as good a footballer, if not a better footballer now than he was then.
I think for a lot of people that's completely understandable. As you say, he's that guy. I just kind of look at the situation. I know we're going to move on to Liverpool a bit later, but with certain players looking like they're going to leave, with Haaland arriving, I almost feel they need someone of that level if they've got any chance of winning the league next year, because Haaland is more than likely to if he's fit for the whole season, he's breaking records. That guy scores goals for fun. City create chances, and I just think there needs to be a response. But I know we're going to touch on Liverpool a little bit later in the stream.
Yeah, we'll get onto that for sure. We'll
definitely do that. And viewers, look, we're still going to be talking Manchester United, their pursuit of Darwin, Nunez, De Jong, and everything going on there. We're going to touch upon Liverpool, as mentioned. Also, any questions that you have, get them in the live chat now. Get your super chats in. Member chats we'll look at as well. If you've got any questions, not just comments, but questions for Dean, you've got to fire them in. In terms of Arsenal as well, though, Gabriel Jesus, you've mentioned there is the Tielemans links. Of course, there's Osimhen they've been talking about as well, and a few others. Who are some of the most common names you're hearing connected to Arsenal outside of the kind of trending players that we've already mentioned?
Yeah, look, I mean, if you're going to look at like just a bit of a left field one, there's HIckey, somebody that they've been looking at to bring depth to that back line. I think that's one we could expect to crop back up again soon. I think they will look to sign HIckey, and if not, they don't get him, then they'll look to get somebody in that sort of bracket. Look, the big question for Arsenal is going to be like, who is the forward that they get? If it's not Jesus, who is it? And the thing that confuses me a little bit about this is that the types of forward that Arsenal are being linked with aren't really that similar. I mean, we're talking about a range of players. You've got Gabriel Jesus, but then you've also got Alex Isak, you've got Jonathan David, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Victor Osimhen. There doesn't really seem to be a common theme to me as to exactly what sort of centre forward Arsenal want. Maybe it's that they're looking for two different sorts of players. I'm not entirely sure on that front, but it's definitely a position they're still going to look to recruit in. Eddie Nketiah obviously is signing his new contract. Didn't look like that was going to be the case to me a month ago. He still wasn't sold on the idea, but a bit more money and a bit more belief that he was going to be part of the budget.
£100,000 a week.
Yeah, it's enough to turn your head, isn't it? But also, he wants to know he's playing. And I think one way to sell it to him is like, well, we now need more players and we need you because we've got European football. We didn't have that last season. It was just full focus really on the Premier League and the 38 games we had there. And you've managed to get a stretch of games in to show us of what you can give us. And we want you to be part of it. Like, even if half of that is the Europa League, so be it. So it will be really interesting at Arsenal to see what they get done because they have got big ambition in this market.
They do. It will be intriguing to see what happens in relation to that. Now, staying in London, I know there's a lot of excitement surrounding Chelsea Football Club, and there's obviously sort of loose links this morning, or big links in some people's eyes, to Nkunku. Declan Rice name never goes away, Tielemans, but of course the takeover has been complete. They've got the licenses, I believe, are in place now. I'm so like the news is so murky at times. The takeover's done; it's complete. The statements come out. They can buy players again. They're not going to go bust. No administration. What are they looking to do? Is it going to be a big summer for Chelsea?
It's going to be a pretty big summer, yeah. I mean, there's obviously been talk about him being given a £200 million war chest and all the rest of it. Like, football wouldn't be football unless we were hearing about war chests just as the transfer window was about to open. So I was happy to read that. But we've been told too that this isn't going to be Abramovich Mark II. So, if you're expecting Neymar to suddenly land at Stamford Bridge and like Chelsea, like get the summer rolling with Neymar coming into the side, then I think that's probably a bit far-fetched. But there are definitely opportunities in the market for Chelsea, and a lot of it will depend on who ends up leaving. There are a lot of names that have their future in doubt right now, and you've got to consider that like a lot of it is realistic too. I mean, we all know the obvious ones, but then you've got the fact that Jorginho and N'Golo Kante, like one of those will go. It'll probably be Jorginho, but Kante definitely not completely safe. Ziyech and Timo Werner in attack. Lukaku's still got to have further talks just to make sure about how well he fits in. Look, I'm told Lukaku wants to stay at Chelsea. He still wants to win everyone over, prove what he's capable of. He's hopeful that within talks, they'll be open to kind of changing the style of play a little bit at times just to suit him better, because it didn't suit him. He was a bit frustrated by it. But once all that opens up, then we'll see what the market looks like. Jules Koundé obviously is a guy that they're looking to get through the door as soon as possible. They've been trying to do that for a year now. And now we know why, because their defence was falling apart. Will they go in for Koulibaly? No offers yet from Napoli for him to go, but he is a lot cheaper now than he was like 2 years ago when everyone was talking about signing him for £80 million. So I reckon you get him but half that now. And then I guess the age-old question, are they going back in for Declan Rice? Maybe. They might do that. And then, like, who's that other player that could really make a difference? Is it going to be somebody like Ousmane Dembele, somebody like that? Are they going to move on a Pulisic or a Ziyech and get in an Ousmane Dembele and then embrace somebody like Conor Gallagher just to freshen up the squad too? There's a lot of decisions to be made. I mean, Tuchel said he can't even go on holiday this summer because he's got so much business to do. He's going to be so busy. I'm sure he could have fitted in a week in Tenerife somewhere along the line, but
well, you need a phone. To see the phone, don't you, and a laptop.
That's it. Yeah, I'm going to California for 3 weeks. I'll still be working. Nice. I'll try anyway. I'll try. But yeah, you know, it is. I think that's just a sign of like how busy they're expecting things to be. And if you're a Chelsea fan, then excitement factor should be kicking back in now, because there's no doubt that season turned stale, and like all the excitement over Tuchel, all the excitement over Lukaku is the missing piece. This is it. We're going to compete with Liverpool and Man City. We're going to win the league. We're going to hold on to the Champions League. It just died away, didn't it? I mean, obviously nobody could see what happened with Abramovich happening, but it was kind of inevitable. Always going to happen one day. Like Abramovich was always going to get caught out in one way or another and have to find a new owner. I guess in a way for Chelsea, they should be grateful that it happened when it did and that they were able to see out the season, still qualify for the Champions League and get it all sorted out by the time the transfer window actually opens again, so they can start kicking on with business.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Lamin here says, is there any truth in the Dembele to Chelsea rumours?
Look, they've definitely had interest in this guy, long-standing interest. And the fact that his future remains uncertain right now means that they just want to keep their ears open to what he's doing next. I think there'll be other clubs, no doubt, watching this too. But I've been told for months, people talk to me about people Chelsea might be interested in. And the same guy said to me was, oh, and don't forget Ousmane Dembele. And I keep saying, yeah, but you've said this, right? Like, you keep saying this to me, and like, he's either injured or he's like seems happy where he is. It's like, yeah, but there's someone at Chelsea that really likes him, and he has always been open to Chelsea. And if something just doesn't go right with the next stage at Barca, then I think he ends up at Chelsea. So there you go. That's all I've heard on it. But because of that, I've always remained open-minded, and that rumor always crops back up every few weeks.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, the last few windows, it's one that's sort of got the juices flowing of Chelsea fans. And he's such an interesting player, isn't he? Because when he's fit and on form, he's sensational. He really, really is. It's just, I suppose, being happy somewhere and staying fit. There's, of course, the Nkunku rumours, and Chelsea's name has now been put into this. Liverpool been linked, Arsenal, Man United. A lot of the reports coming out of Germany now are saying that Leipzig are not going to let him go this summer. They're going to look to keep him for one more year. Do you feel that's Leipzig trying to set up a bit of a bidding war? Or that club seems like it's got ambition, though. Like, Leipzig always gave me the impression that they want to become... They don't seem to want to... Yeah. They seem to not want to do what every other German club in Germany does, which is make Bayern the best team in the world. They seem to sort of fly against the grain a little bit. Can you see him coming to Chelsea or any team in the Premier League in at all?
I'm really not sure. Like, I think even Leipzig half expected that Nkunku might be ending up at PSG this summer. I think that if Mbappe would have left, I think Nkunku was almost nailed on to return to PSG. It didn't happen for him, and like that, I don't think that is now open to him. Like, Mbappe staying, I think, means that Nkunku doesn't have that avenue now. He might still have it in a year, who knows? but I don't think that's there right now. And I think that's probably given the English clubs a little window. They think, right, maybe we should try our luck here. He's such a good player. He really is. And there's no doubt that Chelsea and Liverpool are bigger clubs than RB Leipzig, and that you'd be more excited, surely, about playing for them. But we have to wait and see. I mean, he's kind of kept his counsel a little bit. He does talk about having dreams and stuff, but he never really disrespects his employers. So look, PSG, his boyhood club, I'm sure he would have run there. But anywhere outside of that, he doesn't have that same connection. So I don't know if we'll have to wait and see what sort of drive he has to get there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Football CFC Candy says, not confident in Chelsea's Marina and the scouts. They will ruin the window. We'll struggle next season. They are so bad at recruitment. Watch Gallagher be a DM. We can't compete. There is a lot of negativity from Chelsea fans. That some are really excited, but there are some that are just I swear Marina won like Director of Footballer of the Year like a year ago.
Yeah.
She knows what she's doing. I mean, I don't Chelsea. Some Chelsea fans say bad things about her, but I don't know. Everyone else seems to think she's great.
Yeah, and look, she's by all accounts somebody that's a very fierce negotiator. A lot of people very scared of her. Ultimately, she's very good at what she does, and people speak about her.
Are you speaking from experience there, Dean? Is that
No. I haven't actually met her. I'm genuinely going by what I've been told by agents and stuff. But some of the deals that Chelsea have done, like she was like being lauded for it, and you got to consider like Chelsea when they got Timo Werner, when they got Kai Havertz, even Ziyech, signing Thiago Silva, like. Chelsea have made some really good recruitment. Like they messed up in the last year. There's no doubt that they messed up. Like they thought they were looking in good shape. They thought even Jules Koundé was going to be in a year ago before they even needed another centre back. And then slowly it started to fall apart. Like Rudiger was going, Christensen was going, and like this whole defence started to crumble. And then they couldn't sort out contracts because of the whole sanction problem. And it hasn't reflected well on her. Lukaku doesn't do well. Timo Werner hasn't done particularly well. And now people have got an opinion of her that she's not really up to it. Like I really wouldn't get too down on her because I've got a feeling she might bounce back in this transfer window. Like Chelsea will look to make a mark. They'll look to right any wrongs that they feel that have gone on. Look, Lukaku, there's no doubt they spent a lot of money on it. But, Abramovich was driving that. Abramovich wanted Lukaku back and he was willing to shell out. Like, couldn't get Haaland. So he was like, let's go all out Lukaku. I love him. Let's give him a chance to come back. So he did it. And it hasn't worked yet. It still might work if they can find the way to the right system. Lukaku might still work.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. I mean, that's one of the things that I would be encouraged about as a Chelsea fan with the change of ownership. If they spend decent amounts of money still, which it sounds like they will, I still think that was almost the two mistakes I think that Roman made at the club were signing players that the manager at the time didn't really want or need, with Shevchenko, this time Lukaku, there's a few other examples.
Yeah.
And sometimes being a bit too trigger happy when not backing or sacking certain managers. Ancelotti always stands out. Look what he's done since, especially in the Champions League. Of course, there was the, give Antonio Conte what he wants. You mentioned him earlier for Tottenham, and I know he leaves clubs fairly regularly, but it's always because he isn't given what he wants. I sometimes sit there and think, why don't people just give him what he wants and keep him happy? Everyone only thought Pep would stay at City 3 years. He only stays 3. Was he going into his 7th season now? Because he's happy and he's given what he wants and the club has ambition that matches his. It's one of those things for me where I feel like sometimes we kind of overlook that element of managers. But I think back to Chelsea, I just feel like a tailored approach to how they've operated, but maintaining the high standards. Mm-hmm. You could see something really. Chelsea have done special things in the last 20 years, but I believe they could go to another level. The consistency of approach, the same type of players, not always sort of chopping and changing as much as they did under Roman could. The fact they have a challenge for a league. I think this will be going into their 6th season, is because the consistency at City and Liverpool has been so so strong. It's been hard for anyone to compete, and that needs to be mirrored now. Otherwise, I don't think you're catching them in the league, as it were. But it's certainly going to be interesting. There's a comment here from a man who says, "Is Kante leaving?"
Is Kante leaving? I think it's too far-fetched to say he's leaving, but I was told a year ago, and it seemed a bit ridiculous at the time, but I kept it in mind that like that could be his last year at Chelsea. He was entering a stage of his career where he wasn't going to be able to be the same type of player that he'd been at his peak, and that at the end of the season, they weren't sure whether Chelsea would be open to him leaving, but certainly he might be open to, I don't know, joining a PSG or somebody else, like to just move on to a different challenge. And that is still the case. And that has actually turned out to be the case. And I think over the course of the last season, Chelsea fans have probably got to a point where they feel that they could live without Kante as long as the right guy was brought in. Now, whether that's a Tielemans or a Declan Rice or whatever, we'll have to wait and see. But I don't think they can afford to let Jorginho and Kante leave. And it does feel like Jorginho's got more landing spots right now. But Kante is not definitely a Chelsea player next season. Like again, like if you quickly look over what Chelsea could do this summer and you just look at it at face value, like if Koundé comes in, they'll get another centre-back. Say it was Koulibaly. So they signed Koundé and Koulibaly. So they also managed to get Declan Rice out and convince West Ham to sell for 100 million or just less than that, which is what they want to do. And they got Dembele on a free. And then they brought back in Conor Gallagher. Like you've got 5 players there that's completely changing the dynamic of your team. And there's reason to really be hopeful over the future. So I think that Tuchel will look to transition. He has to get away from the success that Chelsea have built under a spine of a different type. Has to be moved on, and they've got to rebuild it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one club linked with Kante has been Manchester United. And Man United fans are kind of, I don't want to use the word infuriated, but they're almost, that was what we wanted 5 years ago. Why now? You know, Kante has been a great player, but he does look a little bit leggy, especially someone that uses so much energy. Players like that always tend to burn out quicker than the sort of less energetic players, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're not burning yourself out as much. I don't know. It's one of those
He can still do a job, but like, what is he doing there? Like United need this midfielder that's all action hero, basically. Like you are literally coming in to save the day. United fans have wanted someone in that position for ages, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a bit, like who it might be. But like, if it was a Kante, then you can't. It's a bit harsh, but you're almost replacing Nemanja Matic there, not like bringing in like the guy who's like 25 years old and has got the next 5 years of his career ahead of him, you know?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. One of the questions a lot of the viewers are putting in is Lautaro Martinez to Chelsea. There are these links. Of course, that will get everybody thinking, oh, well, Lukaku back to Inter, Lautaro Martinez to Chelsea. We obviously know there's talk about it. It's in a few of the newspapers today. Is that one that you could see transpiring?
Look, I know that Lautaro is open-minded about coming back to the Premier League. I know someone who's pretty close to him, and it's a really tricky one to decipher as to whether he will actually ever leave Inter. I'm told he will. I'm told like if the right offer came along, it would be. And until now, until this Chelsea rumour, it was always Tottenham or Arsenal that was on the table for him. And he wasn't convinced by either of those things. Like, obviously, both have made reasonably, well-known moves for him too in the last year. But Chelsea, I guess, is a different proposition. If Lukaku doesn't work out this summer in terms of his talks, then there was definitely a possibility that he does return to Inter Milan. So I can see how that could all piece together. But it's a really tricky deal to get Lautaro out. But yeah, as I say, having the knowledge that he does at some point want to come to the Premier League, I definitely wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting one. I kind of want to see him away from Italy. I don't know why. I just want to see him in a faster paced league. I just sort of look at it again. This is fan theory here, but if they can't come to a resolution with Lukaku around him being happy, too, because I'm not changing my style.
Mm.
There is that potential. The one thing is, again, rivals say there's no sell-on value now in Lukaku because he's flopped. Lukaku will score goals again in Italy. I think that's most people would agree with it. And it's what you're going to do where you're going that determines your valuation, as opposed to what you've done where you are right now per se. But it's going to be, I say, it's going to be an intriguing one. It feels like with a lot of these deals that everything is very early stages. It feels like today is almost like this. We're going to show you everything we've got to offer. Like a door-to-door salesman who will turn up at your house. This is everything we've got. I don't know if you've ever worked in an office where the person that comes along that sells all the toiletries and cleaning products, and they bring all the samples with them. It almost feels like that. It's like, right, these are all the rumors that could happen. Nothing is really progressing too quickly, barring sort of Perisic and maybe some stuff with Man United we'll touch on in a few minutes. We are still going to talk Liverpool. I know a lot of you are asking when's that coming up. We will put in some of the question about Man City as well, and Cucu and a few other individuals there. But please make sure you've hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace. Man United chat still to come on the show. I wanted to move on to Liverpool, really, because there's a super chat here that says, who do you think is the best replacement for Mane? So I suppose my first question would be, do you expect Mane 100% to leave? And what type of players are Liverpool looking at to replace him?
I can't say 100% leave because Liverpool want Mane to stay. They want him to see out the next year. And the only way you'll change their mind on that is to make an offer that is deemed acceptable. And I think the first talk that was of like £25 million, and like Liverpool were like, if that's an offer that's going to come in for Sadio Mane, then we can tell you that will be rejected. So if Bayern Munich wants Sadio Mane, which they do, if Sadio Mane wants to move on from Liverpool, which I believe he does, I think it'll probably take a transfer in the region of £35 million, something like that. 35 to 40 million pound, I think will get you Mane at this point. It seems like he's made his mind up, and I think it's really interesting, and it's a bit of a plot twist now for Liverpool in terms of like this pursuit of Man City, this pursuit of the biggest trophies in the game. However good Liverpool have been, like the standard they've been playing, which has been ridiculously high, they don't have the trophies to back it up that most teams would have done in an era of such football dominance, because they've had the dominance on the field, but the trophy cabinet doesn't reflect it at all. Parading around yesterday with the FA Cup and Carabao Cup ain't quite what they had in mind, is it? Like that's not the two that they wanted to be holding up. This was supposed to be a team that won the quadruple. And Jurgen Klopp's waving around the Carabao Cup. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to be professional, and the fan in me is coming out. I'm very sorry. Crack on. Sorry.
I thought your Wi-Fi had cut out, mate. I was giving you the benefit of the doubt there. But yeah, so they've got a dilemma, and obviously they've got a process in place whereby they've been slowly transitioning away from Salah, Mane, and Firmino. They've made a good job of it too. Luis Diaz, unbelievable signing. Diogo Jota came in brilliantly into that team and has shown he can make his mark. Is that enough to live with if Mane is gone? I'm not sure. I'm not sure it is. And if you're talking about replacements, then where do they turn? I mean, we talked about Nkunku already. Darwin Nunez is somebody they've been linked with before. Ousmane Dembele we talked about too, somebody linked with Liverpool before. You want to look at a few left field ones? Well, what about Saka at Arsenal? They love Saka. What about if they were to put in a proposal to him and say, come and be part of this? What about if they were to turn to Gnabry at Bayern, say, okay, so if Lewandowski is leaving to go to Barcelona, if Sadio Mane is coming there, how about Gnabry comes into Liverpool? There are some opportunities there. I mean, it's interesting. A couple of months ago, I was thinking to myself, why have Liverpool never gone for Son? Like Son is one of, I don't really see him ever playing anywhere else apart from Tottenham, but I was like, he would have done well at Liverpool, and that won't happen now. Like if Tottenham hadn't made the Champions League, I think that there would have been a possibility we'd be talking about Son joining Liverpool. I don't really see it now. I think he's happy, he loves where he is, and I think he'll remain part of that project. So it's very difficult to add to that dynamic, and you've got to decide what you want. Ultimately, the thing you're going to miss with Mane isn't necessarily his style of play; it's his impact. It's the number of goals and the timing of his goals. Like the moments that Mane comes up, he usually turns up big time. And when Salah drops off, Mane usually steps up. So that's what Liverpool will have to replace if he does indeed leave. And it does look like he probably will. So I don't think Liverpool were necessarily thinking this was going to happen. And if it was going to happen, I think they thought that Salah might be the one that goes. And now you're like, oh, which one would we have preferred? It might have been Salah,
Well, it's an interesting point you make there, and I think from my point of view, as a rival looking at this, Mane leaving is good. It's good news, even though he's getting towards the end of his career. It's good news because that front three were potent. The second half of the season has been great. But a lot of Liverpool fans spoke after the defeat on Saturday that this season's a failure because we missed out on the two main trophies. That this era, it's not the Pep Klopp era, it's the Pep era where Klopp's won a couple of the big trophies in that time. They haven't won enough trophies for how brilliant on the football pitch this team has been. And the thing for Liverpool fans is you can wait another 3-4 years. Okay, well, we could do it in the next 3 years. We could do it in the next 10 years. Players don't have the same time and patience that fans will have because in 4 or 5 years' time, a lot of these guys now who are at their peak at Liverpool will retire from football. So you've got to go and win it now. And I think Mane might look at it that I'm going to Bayern Munich, that every year have a chance of Champions League success. But I'll win some league titles. We win everything. It's a dominant league. It will probably prolong his career a little bit as well because it isn't like you're playing with the same level of intensity, 38 games a season that you do in the Premier League. And the amount of players that come from the Bundesliga that tell us that is where you get that proof from. I think it's a good move for him. But it's all about what Liverpool do to replace him for me. Because I spoke last night I did a video like Harry Kane to replace Mane. Very open in the video that this was not a transfer rumor. Although some guys from the Anfield Rap who are fairly well connected to Liverpool have said there's been talks to Harry Kane. But I've made the point and I stand by it. Now, this doesn't mean it's a realistic thing or it's going to happen, but they should be breaking the bank to sign someone like a Harry Kane do not only do they need a replacement for Firmino and for Mane, but they need to respond to what Man City are doing with Haaland, as I said earlier on this podcast, because if they don't, they're not winning the league next year either. Or maybe the year after that. And that's not even being disrespectful. They'll still be a brilliant team. They'll still accumulate 90-odd points. They'll still do well in cup competitions. But I just think you look at City this year, they didn't have a prolific goal scorer and they still won the league. You throw one into that. They also linked, a lot of people are asking about Cucu. Again, that would just increase the quality again in their team. Yeah. I just sort of feel like for Liverpool, it's almost this case of you don't want to suddenly just peter out from challenging. You need to respond now. And how you respond, I know Liverpool fans have lived off this we don't buy superstar thing, but they tried to sign Kylian Mbappe. According to Mbappe, he said it, not me. The Tielemans stuff's out there. They've got to do something. They've got to put a big money offer down for someone who can come in and make them be able to go toe-to-toe with City again next year. That's my take on it. Anyway, I think they need to do that as opposed to but
in terms of Kane, they're not going to spend that sort of money. Liverpool don't do it, and they're very open about the fact that they won't spend hundreds of £1 million on buying a player. They're not going to break their wage structure to bring in a superstar. They're very, very set about it, and they do believe in unity and team togetherness in terms of a mentality that gets them somewhere. And look, it has worked. It has worked. They're very unlucky at the weekend. Look, they come up against Courtois as an absolute worldie. He's made 9 saves in a Champions League final. Any other team, Liverpool would have won that Champions League final. Wasn't their day. In the Premier League, they came up against a Man City team who were just a bit better, to be honest. They're just a bit better than them. But like you say, they've got Haaland coming in next season. Doesn't mean Man City will definitely win the league. In fact, it means that they might have to change their style of play, which Liverpool might mean helps them. But yes, as they're saying, thanks for Carvalho. This is one thing I do wonder. Like Carvalho, he doesn't play any of the positions that Liverpool really use. So one of the things I'm wondering about, if they're going to transition now forwards, are they going to change the system? Is there any way that Klopp would consider playing like a 4-2-3-1 or something like that? Maybe give somebody like Carvalho a floating role. Maybe somebody emerges from that midfield a bit differently. It might be something that they look at. Might be. I mean, you know, they've got players in the squad that haven't been utilised. Another old Fulham player, Harvey Elliott, like he's a great player. Is next season going to be his time when he gets a set role in that team and gets more of an opportunity? It's interesting. But yeah, there's certainly a few things for Klopp to ponder. He won't be worried, of course, but it doesn't help that Haaland's arriving.
No, a few people. I want to address a few people in the comments. Said this. It's a bit of a dig at you, but I'm going to say something about this. Why doesn't Dean just answer yes or no? Because at this
It'd
stage,
be boring, wouldn't it? Be over in 5 minutes.
I said this before. One thing I like about Dean, we had Ben Jacobs on last week. I like journalists that do not talk in bullet points because transfers are not bullet points. And the amount of times I've seen journalists say, no, 100%, I've spoke to the club, this ain't happening. 3 weeks later, it changes. The answers of I don't think so, or as he said about Mane, I'm not going to say 100% he's going to leave because Liverpool want to keep him. Who knows what's going to happen in the next few weeks? Maybe Bayern don't stump up the money and no one else of that pedigree comes in and Mane stays for a year. Dean would look stupid if he said 100% going. It's just like...
I've done it. I said 100%. Pepe wasn't joining Arsenal. It didn't work out very well for me. I think that's the only time. I've ever said a player definitely wasn't going. I was like, Arsenal won't do it. And then there he was.
I'll say this to anyone else. Listen, I would trust a journalist a lot less if they were like unyielding and sort of unrelenting on everything. I know exactly what's going on because no journalist does, because you're only getting information after it's happened from the clubs or other people anyway. And you don't know when you get it, if the minds have been changed, as you say with Pepe. I mean, that's an extreme example, but that's why. So yeah, we don't do bullet point talking on that. When I post things on Twitter, I bullet point it. It's only 120 characters. But yeah, when it comes to talking, it's a conversation. So yeah.
Ultimately, look, Salah's made the point of saying like he'll be here next season. Like, I'm surprised he said that because like, what if Real Madrid suddenly came forward next week with a proposal now on the back of beating him in the Champions League final, on the back of Mane potentially leaving? What if Salah went to leave? But like, Mane hasn't come out and committed himself to Liverpool. He's only got 1 year left on his contract. Like, Liverpool don't want him to leave, but he probably will. That's as far as I can go.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. I hear you. On Mo Salah, he's committed to the club, as you've just said. Still no new deal. And a lot of people thought that it would be done in January because they weren't going to sign anybody. It's still not done now. And look, his form post-AFCON has been, by his standards, Ballon d'Or standards, that the level he was performing at has almost been, it's been awful, really, since then. Do you feel like these contracts negotiations are playing on his mind? Is he any closer to signing? Could he end up doing 1 more year and leaving for free? Like, what's the sort of word on the ground right now about Mo Salah's future?
I mean, it's pretty rare that a player of his standing gets to have 1 year left on his contract and goes into the new season without it signed. So if we get to the stage where we're kicking off the next season and Salah's there but hasn't signed a new contract, it's highly unlikely he's signing one. And that means he's going to be leaving on a free transfer, which is pretty mind-blowing that it gets to that point. I think in an ideal world, Liverpool would have tied this up 4 or 5 months ago like they wanted to and wouldn't have been close to this situation right now. It's very nerve-wracking for them. The fact that Mane and Salah sit so close to leaving at a time when they are on the verge of greatness, really. Like, they were genuinely in the discussion to win a quadruple. That doesn't happen many times. So it's not looking like Salah will leave, but on the flip of that, he hasn't actually had a proposal to leave in the last few months. So things could yet change. Like, never take a player at their word, because like, for whatever sources you trust, the least reliable one is the player, because the player is going to say the one that is the safest. He's employed by a football club. Like, unless they are really, really annoyed about something and are willing to drive away a move, so like, say, Aubameyang going Arsenal to Barcelona, that's a situation that was untenable, and that was fine. Like, whatever, keep everyone happy, off you go. Not very often that happens, though. So, of course, Mo Salah is going to say he's staying. Maybe he is. Maybe he does intend to stay. But what if Real Madrid intend to go and put in an offer to get Mo Salah? Because that would be a game changer. Like, yes, they're hopeful that Hazard comes back for them next season and has a good year, but that really is hopeful. That is the key word there. Benzema, Vinicius, and then there's a spot on the right side. I'll be amazed. I'm surprised they're not doing it. I know that there's no love lost at the moment between Salah and Real Madrid. Like that's clear. Like he's out for a revenge mission, which didn't go his way. Maybe he just accepts defeat and goes to join them. Maybe that's the way out of this.
But listen, I'll make you right. I don't trust what players say. And we're going to get onto Man United in a minute. But it was, De Jong has publicly said he's looking forward to next year. Well, of course, because he might end up being there. If he comes out and says, I'm looking forward to leaving, and then he's got to play in front of the Barca fans, they're going to cook him. Footballers aren't stupid. They're not stupid. They all do the same thing. There's a great comment here, though, from Faisal that says, you can't champion Salah as the best in the world and not pay him accordingly. And that is a message to Liverpool for me, in the sense of you can't keep, we've got the best attacker in the world. He's the Ballon d'Or winner. And then be like, well, we're not going to pay him what the best player in the world earns. Listen, Mo Salah's got to make his mind up, but I can still see him leaving. As you say, if the right offer, the right club comes in, from Liverpool's point of view as well, if he ain't going to sign this new deal and you can get 50, 60, 70 million for him now, it all depends, again, who else you can line up. If Mane leaves, I definitely don't see him leaving because they can't afford. I mean, they lost both of them, Mane and Salah, in one summer. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do a video on it because I wouldn't be able to hold myself together. I wouldn't, but it's definitely going to be an intriguing one. A few people are asking, could you see Timo Werner joining Liverpool? Because Klopp's always liked him.
It's not a bad shout, is it, at all? Like that isn't a bad shout. And he's ultimately, if he does have to find a quick fix, he'll either be leaning on somebody that they've got like detailed analysis of throughout the season. And look, it's completely within Liverpool to make a surprise signing. Minamino caught us off guard. Jota pretty much caught us off guard. They are very good at keeping their cards close to their chest. And with Timo Werner's future at Chelsea definitely in some doubt, I don't think that would be a bad signing at all, to be honest. But then it might be that they go even smarter than that. Look, Klopp could probably find someone in like the lower divisions that could do a job for him and surprise everybody. Like he's a very, very smart guy. He gets people running through brick walls for him. And when it works, it really works. So you have to wait and see. But yeah, look, I can kind of see why you wouldn't pay Salah. I mean, you just said he's gone off the boil since AFCON. And so why would they give him a 400 grand a week contract? He's 29 years old. He's probably had his best seasons. I'll be amazed if Salah had more to offer than what we've already seen. I'll be amazed if he's got like next season goes and scores 50 goals. I don't see it there. Look, he's surprised me before. He's proved me wrong before, so fair play to him. But there is part of me that kind of understands why they wouldn't just go and give him that massive contract that, he might be able to get elsewhere.
Great shout, Dean. A question here says, Cucurella to City, what's the latest?
I mean, I haven't looked into this one too deeply at this point, but there's something there. Ultimately, people close to it are just like, look, this is very early days. Cucurella's not pushing for a transfer or anything like that. He's obviously a player that's on their radar. It's clear that Man City are looking to recruit in that position. A year ago, they were linked to Anthony Robinson at Fulham, and I've watched a lot of him, and I could assure you, I do not see him as a Man City player. But the way that a left back plays at Man City is different to how they play at any other football club. And Cucurella has had a phenomenal season. He's been brilliant. He's been such an integral part to what Brighton have been able to achieve under Graham Potter. So I think it's a really interesting link. I think that it would probably be smart, especially the fact that he's got this Premier League experience and still has room for growth, still has that ambition to go and prove himself on a bigger stage. So, it's one that I could definitely think we should be monitoring.
There we go. Before we move on to Manchester United, because I know there's a lot going on there, David here, one of our members, says Gnabry to Chelsea, but there's also Gnabry to Arsenal links as well. Can you see that happening? Gnabry back to the Prem?
I can't see him going to Arsenal. I think that I just don't see it at this point. I think it feels like a bit of a climb down for him. Like, I know there are other reasons to see that happening, but I'd be surprised if Gnabry landed at Arsenal. To Chelsea too. as I say, like to Liverpool would actually be the one to me that would suit the best right now. Certainly his future's in doubt at Bayern. He's such a good player. I'd love to see him back in the Premier League, but after what he's been able to do in the Bundesliga, I'm sure he'll have to weigh up very carefully about where he's going to have the best impact.
There we go. Viewers, make sure that like button has been smashed. Just over 1,700 of you watching, which is great for this Monday morning. Make sure that the like button has been hit and that you subscribed to the Football Terrace as well. Manchester United, Dean. I mean, the circus continued yesterday. Ralph's gone. I was very angry about it. Not even because even people were asking me, Ram, but he weren't even that good, Terry. It's not even about that. It's like people miss the elephant in the room. It's like, so we employed somebody else that was below the standards for Man United. Like that should be more disconcerting for United fans than anything else. It's essentially 5 mistakes on the bounce in regards to, he's gone. But United are linked to all and sundry. And I do want to start off by talking about Darwin Nunez, because obviously we both work with Give Me Sport, and I read your article that's in there around sort of there being very close links, the deal being for Darwin Nunez being something that's fairly close. Which sort of delve into that a little bit deeper in Man United's pursuit of him and how you see that deal currently standing.
Yeah, obviously, like with any club and any transfer window, there are certain sources that you rely on, and you can just have to trust the information that you're getting. And the update I got last week on Darwin was like, look, this guy is somebody that United like a lot. They do feel confident that they can get him. The person actually was more assured than that. He said he felt it was close. He felt it was close to a breakthrough and this could happen. He said there is a feeling that Atletico Madrid are the biggest threat, though. There's a feeling that might be where he ends up. So let's see how it pans out from here. I mean, just taking him at his word there. So, which is all you can really do as a journalist. You're trusting other people who are in and around these actual conversations. There's no doubt that like this is the signing that United would want early. Like this guy lifts morale and he lifts the levels around Old Trafford. Scored 34 times last season. He's 22 years old. His goals in the Champions League that he got came against Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Ajax, Liverpool. Like, he's been at Benfica, yes, but when he's posed against defences of the highest calibre, he's delivered. That's enough for Man United to know. They spoke to Edison Cavani about him, obviously Uruguayan, like asking him, is he a good fit? Cavani gave him glowing references of this guy, said, you need to go after him. Like, he can do a job for you. So, Cavani, even in his latter stages of his Old Trafford career, helping United, just saying, yeah, do it. From all intents and purposes, like you've got Ronaldo. He's the 37-year-old that obviously is going to start more games than he doesn't. But they want someone who's at the other end of their career. They want someone who's emerging, who's exciting, who can, one, learn from Ronaldo for a year, but also, two, keep Ronaldo on his toes, keep pushing him as well. Don't guarantee him of his spot. And I think some people would think Ronaldo won't want that. I personally think that he would relish that. I think Ronaldo would love to have somebody that had the same ambition, the same belief that he had as a 22-year-old, coming up behind him every day at training, trying to score similar goals, and him trying to put him in his place. Just for this last year, this has got to be a special year for Ronaldo at Man United. It can't be like the last season. This is not why he came back. He came back to make things happen, but he needs someone that's going to help him do that. And ultimately, United's season was saved, if you can even call it that, by Ronaldo coming up with a glut of goals at the end of the season, including a couple of hat-tricks. They need someone like Darwin Nunez.
Do you know what's interesting? I never claim to have encyclopedic knowledge on all players, and I've watched him a few times. I'm still, as an individual, unconvinced, if that makes sense. But yeah. I don't watch him enough to have an educated opinion. But what you've said there about having someone that will push Ronaldo, it's true. Something about fandom that's become frustrating for me as a content creator is you see this at clubs, especially clubs that are struggling. This, I don't want to sign Joe Bloggs because it'll get in the way of the development of Rashford, or in the development when he was in the squad of Greenwood or Martial. And I just can't abide it. It's no, you need someone like Darwin Nunez to come in and push everybody in the team. And you want them Ronaldo, I'm keeping you out of the team. And you want this almost camaraderie, but competition amongst people that elevates everyone to that next stage. Man United have got this kind of survivor culture of almost, oh, but what about poor little old me? What about my position? Then they sulk and then they don't want to play hard and they throw managers under buses, and that's got to go. And I think that element of what you spoke about there is something that's key. And I look at, listen, the Darwin Nunez, a lot of people have got opinions. Some are really excited. Some are saying, oh, absolutely not. But listen, we've all got predictions right about how good signings are going to be. We've all got them wrong. He's definitely highly touted. Lots of clubs looking at him. And if you and your sources are right and he's very close and he comes to Man United, a deal like that early in the window, I think will make a lot of United fans feel a bit more relaxed over the course of this summer. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Another deal that people are talking about relating to Man United is, of course, Frankie de Jong, who's another young player. The situation is obviously a little different. There's continual talk that Barca are struggling financially, therefore they've got to sell him. There's reports the player said no. Now he's kind of open to the move. Maybe that's because Barca said, "Listen, mate, we're selling you, so you got to find somewhere to go." But what's your understanding of that deal? And can you see Erik ten Hag having the pull to bring a player like Frankie de Jong into United without Champions League football?
I mean, United obviously depending on that. I mean, it's a big hope. I mean, ultimately, this is Frankie de Jong giving up on a career at Barcelona. That's how you have to look at it from him. This is a player that is undoubtedly one of the best midfield talents on the planet. And at the moment when he joined Barcelona, like, it was such a good signing, such a big signing, such a moment for him to really take that step up from Ajax and think, right, where am I going here? Obviously, he was linked to so many clubs, and he took that Cruyff route, if you like, and he's gone Ajax to Barcelona. Now, if you're going to go Ajax to Barcelona, then you live up to your expectation and you prove that you're a success. And there'll be part of Frankie de Jong that feels he hasn't done that yet. It's been 2 or 3 years now, and obviously it's been difficult for him because the club's been a mess. It's a mess, and they're trying to rebuild. And look, they're doing a quicker rebuilding job than Man United. I mean, in the last 4 months, Barcelona's squad's turned around better than Man United's squad has in 8 years.
Gotta be honest, 9 years is not that long for a rebuild. Look how long Wembley took, mate. Like, it takes time.
But it's incredible how quick Barcelona are looking to set things right. And part of Frankie will be like, hang on, Lewandowski's coming next season. Do I want to leave? Can I leave this? And I don't think ultimately he will want to leave Barcelona unless it seems like there's not a path for him into the team. And I don't believe that that's the case. I am skeptical a little bit about all this Ten Hag links to every Dutch player under the sun. I mean, I was going through the other day, who has actually been linked since Ten Hag was appointed manager? Ajax players, Jurrien Timber, Tadic, Antony, Edson Alvarez, Allaire, Gravenberch was linked. Then you've got Frankie de Jong.
Daley Blin's coming back. Danny Blin's coming back. They're all coming.
Yeah, then you've got PSV. Well, they get Ibrahim Sangare because he plays for PSV and he had a couple of good games against Ajax. There is genuine interest in Sangare, and actually that should be a route they're actually exploring. But it's so hard to know. Steven Bergwijn. It's what? Because he's Dutch.
That was one. I mean, I do a lot of transfer talk on the Terrace. We put it out there. That was one. I went, nah, no way is he getting that weirdo in with him fingers. It's not going to happen. It's funny. David here with the member chat says, "Morning, Terry. Can you ask Dean if Pau Torres, Timber, De Jong will all get done, or who else he thinks?" And I think, obviously, I messaged you the other day about Pau Torres because there's talk that the recruitment team want Pau Torres and Timber's wanted by the manager. Do you feel like there's going to be harmony? Are you hearing there's going to be harmony amongst the recruitment team and Ten Hag, or could this be a case of the manager again giving players that he doesn't necessarily want?
I mean, you can't get off to a start whereby the manager's getting players he doesn't want, especially in such a key position. There's no doubt about it. Pau Torres has been on United's radar for longer than Ten Hag's been the manager of Man United. So you have to read into that Pau Torres is a club decision, not a Ten Hag decision. Jurrien Timber, complete opposite. That's a guy that he's been working with. He likes, he thinks can fit. So do you trust him? that's the decision Man United got to make. Look, Pau Torres, from what I understand, like it is close. Like Villarreal, there's people there. One in particular I speak to who thinks that that he'll go. Villarreal are basically expecting the transfer to happen, but that doesn't mean it will. And a lot of that would have been because the talks have been going on for so long and in such detail. But ultimately, it hasn't happened yet. And United are appointing a new manager. And look, Rangnick was supposed to be part of the ongoing philosophy. He's gone. He's gone. So that consultancy job he had for 8 days a month or whatever it is doesn't exist now. So Ten Hag can't lean on that anymore. So when whatever plan, philosophy United had that involved Rangnick to then help out Ten Hag is gone. So Ten Hag is now his own man. He's got to live or die by these decisions on recruitment. He's seen how quickly managers have been in and then gone again. He can't let that happen to him. He can't have a quick death here. Like, he needs to get in there. And he will. I'm making fun of all the Dutch links. Like, of course, it makes sense that he gets one or two that he recognises and knows, because you want a couple of allies in that dressing room. You want a couple of guys when things aren't going so well to turn around and say, look, he did this at Ajax, and 2 weeks in a row we actually lost, but then it turned around and we did this, this, and this, and actually it's brilliant. Wait until you see what happens in a month or so. That's why you get those figures around you in the team, and that's why I could see that maybe, especially in the centre of his defence, player that's also versatile to play DM, you would think, right, this is where I need my voice to be in that dressing room and in that team.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think I feel like the Timber links are fairly. I mean, you've got to, I forget the gentleman's surname, Mike, begins V surname.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, very respected journalist. He, like, the fact he's really speaks about De Jong and Timber, like they're the main thing. Like, he isn't talking, he doesn't tweet about every Dutch player every day. I've kind of gravitated towards him when it comes to that news, because he isn't sensationalist or hyperbolic with it. So I think that there's elements of truth there. The thing with Pau Torres is this: I can see a case of Pau Torres coming in and Timber. Timber can play right back. AWB's been told he's leaving. The club have said Delo will stay, but it doesn't sound like they're convinced. You could have a situation where for a season, Pau Torres is a centre-back with Varane, and Timbers is used in a sort of a right back or a versatile role around the team. Like, there are ways that these kind of links will kind of marry in together, but it does also link into how much United are going to spend. But I have to say, as a Man United fan, I love the fact that the stories are we haven't got much money, because it's the complete opposite to what we did many times under Woodward, where that pleb would come out and go, we've got more money than anyone. You know, it's a bit like they said, you buy a new TV or a computer, never put the empty box outside your house because you attract burglars. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, don't tell everyone how much money you've got. Tell the world you're broke, and you might get an average of £10 million off all your signings, which across 5 players, that's 50 million quid. It's a lot of money. So I'm hoping it's a little better. In terms of outgoings, though, there's expected to be a lot. Paul Pogba, we expect to go. Matic has said he's leaving. Phil Jones is on his way out. Any shock exits? Like, I don't think we need to kind of like have death by 1,000 cuts on all the. We know the usual suspects that we all expect to leave. Bailly, Mata might go. Lingard is going to go. A lot of these are free transfer. Dean Henderson. Yeah. But do you think there could be any surprise exits? A Rashford, a Maguire, someone that we don't expect to leave. A McTominay. A lot of people would like to see him go, but he's not expected to. Can you see any kind of shock exits from the club?
I don't see it, no, because they can't really do it, because the squad is going to be thin once these other players go. So you lose Pogba, Lingard, Cavani, Mata, Matic, Bailly, Phil Jones, 7 or 8 players there that I've just reeled off. So that's 7 players in your squad. You've got to replace 7 signings you've got to make. You can't then delve deeper into your squad. And I didn't even mention Martial. Like, what's happening with Martial? Like, so you can't then be like, oh, and Rashford, he can go. He's not that good. Wan-Bissaka, I'm not even convinced Wan-Bissaka will definitely go, because I don't know, unless you can replace him quickly, how's the squad going to bulk up for next season and be good enough to compete on all fronts? It won't be. And that's the thing. Like, Rashford, I don't see leaving at all. Like, I think that, well, I know that I spoke to someone very early on in the Ten Hag stuff, and he was like, one of his first jobs is to fix Marcus Rashford. Like, he wants to know what's gone wrong. Is it a psychological thing? Is it that the team doesn't suit him? Is that there was a problem with him and Rangnick. What is it? What is holding this guy back? Because he's lost all confidence. This guy was the poster boy, not just for Man United, but for England as a country. Like 2 years ago, like this guy could do no wrong. Now people are willing to like let him go and join Newcastle or something. That shouldn't be the case. And like Rashford, there's something in there that they need to rekindle. And I think that that's going to be the case for Ten Hag. It's not about moving people on. It's about fixing people.
I agree with that, and I think that there's a lot of you know you're on well I know you're on socials, but you tend to stay away from Twitter.
Doesn't do my mental health much good, does it?
We've had these conversations. I think there's obviously agendas. A lot of people have never liked. A lot of people loved Martial and saw Rashford as a problem, and have always been on Rashford's back. Rashford hit some bad form, and they've jumped on it like a dog in heat, and they're not going to let go now. Like they're barbed in. I think he can turn it around. I think players like him, I think I'm excited to see Fred under Ten Hag. I'm excited to see Bruno Fernandes under him. I think Donny van der Beek's going to get another chance as well. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
Donny can be turned around. That's a signing that we don't, it saves the recruitment team weeks and months of more work. It's almost a case, he's such a brilliant player technically. And if Ten Hag can't get him playing well, then it clearly is he ain't suited to the Prem, because just Ten Hag's his old coach. He had him playing at a world-class level in the Champions League. So we know that he can make it work. So yeah, I think it is about fixing certain individuals. You know, Luke Shaw, I think, could do very well. And I know a lot of people don't like hearing this either. There's part of me that wants to see Maguire as this kind of sacrificial lamb to sort of get fans feeling excited and happy, because there are certain players that you always... Fellaini went through this. He was always he was the poster boy of the failure, if that makes sense. And Maguire gets that tag. But would I be shocked as a football fan if over the next 12 months, Ten Hag gets Maguire playing really well? I wouldn't be. I wouldn't. I wouldn't go, oh my God, I can't believe it, because there's been a footballer in there. We see it in the England kit. We saw it at Leicester, and we've seen it a lot of times for Man United. He just lost his head like every other player. I mean,
this is the thing. Like, it's for so many of this squad, it's just been a mental problem, and they've been battered. Like, if I was a Man United player, there is no, as you say, I'm barely on Twitter these days anyway. But you know, if I was a Man United player, there's absolutely no chance I'd be in it. Why would you be checking your mentions as a Man United player over the past 2 years? Anyone that is, they're not coming out of that well, because there's no way you can ignore the stuff that is being said about you. You can be as thick-skinned as you like. I don't believe that cannot affect you. And with players like Maguire, you saw when he scored that goal was it a goal for England? And he put his fingers in his ears and stuff. And then United lost 4-0 the next week or something, and he made a mistake. Like, he's getting affected by it. He's getting affected by the criticism so negatively. And it's a shame, because early on in his United days, I was speaking to someone who was in a really good position at United, and he had good insight to the squad and the harmony. He was like, Harry Maguire is an unbelievable leader of this team. And he's like, I'm not even talking about on the pitch. He's like, away from things, he's the one that organises, he makes sure that all the lads are seeing each other away from training. He makes sure that that everyone's getting on. He makes sure that there's he doesn't want cliques in the dressing room. He wants everyone being together. And he said he was so good at it. And I don't know, that guy isn't in the same job anymore, so I haven't got the same feedback over the last year. But I'll be surprised whether he's been able to maintain even that, because he would have had so much in his mind and would just have to focus on trying to get his performances right. And as you say, Ten Hag can definitely find a better version of Harry Maguire.
Listen, and I hope that he does. I'm still of the mindset of I don't think Maguire right now. My belief is I don't think Maguire will recover confidence to ever get back to where he was. But if he does and he's playing well, I don't run agendas, especially against my own team. I want him to do well. If any of these guys turn it around under 10, if Martial comes back and turns into the player we all dreamed that he would be and starts to kill it, all I'm going to be is happy. You know, I've always said this to people. I have my favorite players. We all do it at clubs. But I don't care about them more than I care about Manchester United. And I think that's something for fans to really sort of focus on in relation to that. We've got a few super chats here. First one says, question for Dean. Do you think Ralph was let go because of his criticism of the club, or because his ideas weren't the same as Erik Ten Hag's?
He was let go because of the Austria stuff, wasn't he? I don't think there was really that much more to it. He was, once they appointed the new manager, he was going into his consultancy role, took that Austria job. Like as soon as he got that job as Austria manager, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like his job is to be a consultant, particularly over like recruitment and transfers. Austria got 4 games in about the first 2 weeks of the transfer window. Like that's when they want to speak to him. How's he going to be able to focus on his new job as well as that?
Absolutely. I've called, when I say called you, I've bigged you up on this. I remember you saying on December, you were on a show with us. I want to say it was in December, late December, where you said if Man United don't offer him a serious job, he'll leave. And I remember when you said it at the time, it was one of the moments where I'm going to sound really bitchy. Most of the other, what I call the bullet point journalists, weren't talking facts. They were just kind of reiterating the positive theme that was going around the club. You're like, well, no, if he doesn't have a serious job, like a full-time job in a fairly strong position, he'll look for another role elsewhere. I remember you saying it, and everyone was like, no, he'll stay. He's going to go upstairs. Like, well, no, if he doesn't have a serious job with power, he's going to go. With all due respect, he thinks a lot of himself, and so he should. He's done some great things in football. So
he wants to be a manager. You know, it was what they offered him was basically like imagine you're really high up at a company and they make layoffs and they get rid of you and they say, but if you set up your own company on the side, we'll give you 4 shifts a month and we'll pay you 10 grand. Like that's basically the sort of deal that he was on, but just in football terms. And like, it's all very well to placate someone and to get what you want out of them short term, but like long term, that person isn't going to be fully satisfied.
No, of course they're not.
I mean, I'd take the 10 grand a month. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, listen, it's the thing with the consultancy stuff. Like someone said, oh, Terry, what did you expect him as a consultant? I'm like, listen, I spent 3.5 years placing contractors into senior roles within the banking industry. Some consultants, go in on like a 1 day a week thing, but some consultants go in and actually run businesses for a period of time. So my thoughts and feelings were always, well, he's going to be the director of football, but on a consultative basis. And maybe that's just the wording they're using. It didn't matter to me whether it was consultant or full time. It was in football, you can be sacked at the drop of a hat anyway because they pay your contract off. But look, for me, my view is more this. I'm not bothered that him and Ten Hag don't want to work together, couldn't work together. There was friction, whether it's the Austria job. It's more, I just feel like I really feel like we've wasted 6 months. I really do feel like we've wasted 6 months. We should have just gone, broke the bank, brought Ten Hag in November and started doing everything that's been done now. And that's kind of more my concern. Neil here says, Liverpool need to be ruthless in the market to catch City. I think you'd probably agree with that. I mean, we've kind of alluded to that already, haven't we, really? They definitely need to look at that and do that.
Yeah, I mean, look, trusting Klopp, though, like that's the other thing. Like, Klopp gets things right. Like, we can't doubt this man. Like, he hasn't made... A lot of the times, the signings he's made haven't been massively significant. I mean, there's a couple of huge names they brought in. Like, the Van Dijk thing was obviously massive. You know, luring in Thiago, that was big. But he finds a fix. And, like, it might be, look, maybe he sees losing Mane as an opportunity. Maybe he sees it as a way to now rebuild this Liverpool team in a different way. Like I said earlier, maybe he brings in Fabio Carvalho for a few games, see if he can play in a 3 behind 1 striker. Let's see what he can come up with.
Yeah, listen, no one can be writing him off. Absolutely right. But listen, viewers, I appreciate you all coming on today, viewing and watching and having your say, hitting the like button, the super chatters as well. Big thank you, Dean. A pleasure as always to chat. And I'm sure over the next sort of 3 months, these stories are going to start to really take shape and kind of motor on forward, especially after because there's no international football. I know there's the Nations League that's on, but there's no sort of World Cups and camps and players being away. So it's fun. Always a pleasure to speak. Until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon. Thank you.